Hi, everyone! Today, we're going to look at one very common English word, point. You probably know it as a small mark or a sharp end, but in everyday English, point can mean much more than that. And the interesting thing is that many of these meanings are actually connected. So, let's get started. Point equals a small mark, a particular position. Let's start with the most concrete idea. A point can be a small mark that shows a particular position. You can often think of it simply as a dot. Put a point on the map to show where you live. Here, we're talking about a small mark showing a particular location. Connect the points to complete the picture. In this situation, points are the small marked positions that you need to connect. But point doesn't have to be a physical mark. It can simply mean a particular place or position. Meet me at this point on the map. Here, we're talking about a specific place. And we can use the same idea for time. At some point, I'd like to visit Australia. Here, point refers to a particular moment, although we don't say exactly when. At this point, we don't know what happened. In other words, at this stage, or at this moment in the situation, we don't know. Now let's take that idea of position a little further. We can have a point of view. From my point of view, we should wait. Here, point is no longer a physical place. It's a figurative position, the way you see or understand something. So, your point of view is basically your perspective. I understand your point of view, but I don't completely agree. The idea is, I understand how you see the situation, even though I see it differently. Point equals an idea or argument. Now let's move from a position to an idea. When someone gives an opinion or argument, we can call that idea a point. We should leave earlier. The traffic is terrible at 5. That's a good point. Here, we're talking about a good idea or argument that someone has just mentioned. I see your point, but I still disagree. The idea is, I understand your argument, even though I don't agree with it. And this gives us another very common expression, make a point. She made a good point during the meeting. Here, we're saying, she gave an idea or argument that was worth considering. I'm not trying to make a point, I'm just saying what happened. Basically, I'm not trying to prove something or make a particular argument. And when someone makes an argument that you accept, you can simply say, okay, point taken. Here, we're saying, I understand what you're saying, and I'll take it into consideration. Point equals purpose. Now, there's another very common idea. A point can be the purpose or reason for doing something. That's why we often ask, what's the point? In other words, what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? What's the point of arguing if nobody is going to change their mind? Here, we're asking, what will arguing achieve? And this gives us a very useful pattern. There's no point in worrying about something you can't change. The idea is, worrying won't achieve anything. There's no point in arguing about it anymore. Here, we're saying, arguing won't help or change the situation. Point equals the main or important idea. Sometimes the point means the main or important thing we're talking about. The point is, we don't have enough time. Here, we're saying, this is the main thing you need to understand. That's not the point. We're talking about what happened yesterday. In other words, that's not the important issue we're discussing. And this is where we get beside the point. Maybe he was tired, but that's beside the point. Here, we're saying, that's not relevant to the main issue. Whether she likes the plan or not is beside the point. The idea is, that's not what we're discussing right now. And if someone is talking around the subject instead of saying what they really want to say, you can tell them, "Can you get to the point?" In other words, can you tell me the main thing you're trying to say? Let me get straight to the point. We need more time. Here, the speaker is skipping the extra details and saying the main thing directly. Point equals a score. Now let's move to a different meaning. In sports and games, a point is something you score. We won by 3 points. Here, points are the units used to measure the score. She scored 10 points in the first half. In other words, she got 10 points for her team. We can also use point for scores in competitions, tests, and other situations where you receive a score. I lost 1 point on the test because of a spelling mistake. Here, we're talking about 1 unit of the total score. Point equals a sharp end. Now let's move on to another very literal meaning of point. The point of something can be its sharp or narrow end. Be careful, the point of the knife is very sharp. Here, we're talking about the sharp end of the knife. This pencil has lost its point. That means the sharp end has become blunt or worn down. Point equals direct toward something. So far, we've been looking at point as a noun. But point can also be a verb. And here, the basic idea is quite simple. You direct something toward a particular person, place, or thing. He pointed at the picture. Here, he directed his finger toward the picture. She pointed to an empty chair. The idea is, she indicated the chair by directing attention toward it. We commonly use point at, point to, and point towards, depending on exactly what we want to express. The sign points towards the station. Here, it indicates the direction of the station. But point can also become figurative. The evidence points to a different explanation. Here, we're not physically pointing at anything. The evidence suggests or indicates something. All the signs point to a problem with the engine. In other words, all the signs suggest that something is wrong with the engine. And that's it. Which use of point was new to you, or which one do you use most often? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next lesson.